Okay, can you confirm that is it visible the screen?
Yes, sir, visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so some of you are new. Okay, I suggest you please see the course the course plan, and some of the lectures I have already uploaded in the classroom along with the PDF file, the class note PDF file I have uploaded. So you can go through all the old lectures. Okay, today, as you are new, and let me just brush it up. I was discussing about the architectural point of view, because this course is about writing a code into an FPGA. Okay, and FPGA stands for Field Programmable Gate Array. So it's kind of embedded system in which we are going to program with a language called VHDL. Okay, that VHDL is a language, it's called machine language. That language we need to learn here in this course, and after that we will use this language to write some code in machine language, and then we can dump into this embedded processor, which will be your FPGA board, and then it can do the dedicated purpose. Okay, so that is about the main motto of the current course what I am taking now. In that course, mostly I will cover about the programming part, which is the VHDL language. And before that, as it is the introductory, I mean the first module is about you need to know that what is that embedded system and what is the embedded processor. To know that, and what are the important technologies related to the advanced development, starting from the fundamental digital circuit, both combinational as well as sequential, which is essential to know about the advancement in the field of embedded system. So 3-4 classes what I have already taken, that is related to the most fundamental part of digital electronics, where you need to know about the gate circuit, and gate, or gate, and how we can implement using an I mean bipolar junction transistor, BJT, and how this thing can be fabricated in a larger scale. This part I have talked about maybe the first or second class. Then I talked about what is the importance of FPGA in terms of combinational circuit. We can build, of course, a combinational circuit to solve a particular work, but the problem is that if you need a complex work, the circuit will become complex, and hence if any problem or any arbitrary thing goes, there is debugging problem will happen. If something goes wrong, then the entire circuit needs to be replaced by a new circuit, so which is totally not wanted in current age. So current age is about the digitalization and embedded system, where we talk about more on programming, because you have a flexible system where you can write your code accordingly, your system becomes integrated one. So you do not need some kind of chip, and that should be connected in a larger scale, and then you give the circuit, so that debugging will be difficult. So in that second or third class, I have discussed extensively related to the combinational circuit, sequential circuit, why the FPGA is important, why embedded systems are important, and that topic I have discussed. You can please go through these lectures, and as well as class note I have uploaded. So it is an extension of those classes. Here I in the previous class I have discussed about the microcontroller architecture. I will just touch it upon, I mean just I will brush it, and then I will be discussing today mainly microprocessor and the FPGA architecture. Okay, so here as you can see, microcontroller architecture, I already told you there are basic 4-5 elements which you need to remember. That first one, of course, we need to have an CPU. So here that Mayank was asking me that how far this CPU is different from ALU. Okay, all of you have heard of this term ALU, arithmetic logical unit, and another is CPU. Okay, so in microcontroller, when this term is coming microcontroller, always you remember that the microcontroller is an advancement or advanced version of microprocessor. So initially the development what took place in the field of embedded system, that is microprocessor. Okay, and after that slowly we understood that the limitation of microprocessor and how that can be eliminated. So therefore new architecture is being developed, and still now the development is going on. So microcontroller is an advancement of microprocessor. Okay, so the main processing unit here we say it's a CPU. Okay, so and if you compare with the if say microprocessor, it is called ALU. So ALU stands for arithmetic logical unit, where CPU stands for central processing unit. So question was, Mike was saying that what is the basic difference between these two? Okay, whether we can say that CPU can perform what ALU can do, or what ALU can perform what CPU can do. The thing is that if you need a lower version of work, let us say you need only arithmetic addition, comparison, okay, or logical operation, that these work can be done by both, like ALU and CPU, both can do, okay, because in CPU we have ALU, okay, inside we have ALU plus some advanced version, okay, that I am just discussing now. So that basic operation can be solved by both ALU as well as CPU. Okay, that's correct. But if you need a complex mathematical operation where we need to solve some differential equation or integration, then ALU task will be difficult. We can do, of course, you know that integration is basically summation, and in arithmetic operation I can add lot many I mean number as I want, okay, but the problem is memory, because if you see microprocessor architecture I will discuss, the memory element is also limited. So therefore if you write a large number of code machine language, definitely you need large number of bit file, and that bit file will not be processed effectively by this ALU unit. So you can integrate using ALU, that is true, that is possible, but unfortunately you are increasing the burden of the system and system becomes slower. So that's why people are thinking, or people thought, that how to eliminate or how to get rid of this problem, and can be we can solve a lot of complex problem solution by this kind of architecture or advancement. We say whatever we say, we can say it's advanced microprocessor, anything. Then comes the concept comes that, okay, CPU, so it has not only it has ALU, okay, and there are nowadays core 2 duo, dual core, I lot of advancement has already happened, okay, but I am sticking to the fundamentals. So ALU was there, along with I need to incorporate some mathematical operation so that we can segregate. So mathematical operation may be trigonometric function, okay, maybe sine, cos, okay. Sine is basically a set of data which will repeat after a certain period, or that can be generated by a lookup table. So everything is there inbuilt by an called VLSI technology based circuit, where that circuit can be integrated with the ALU. Now this arithmetic operation is kind of a block. You can say this is one block, another block is integration block, another block is for derivative block. So all these small block, if you combine and manufacture is in a very small scale, okay, and then put it inside this ALU, then total system is called CPU, okay. That is the initial advancement what also people have done, okay. Sometimes we say it's a DSP processor as well, okay. So there is a chip called TMS 320F 28 series 28X. So this is the CPU, okay, and that CPU is internally present, and the total board, when you configure with the serial input output ADC and then all memory RAM, then we say it's a microprocessor, okay. And when this chip is used, we say it's a DSP microcontroller, okay, digital signal processing microcontroller, okay. So here the basic fundamental difference is, you can see we have ALU here, but along with we have other apparatus or very large scale integrated circuit of performing, which can perform other complex operation like integration, arithmetic operation, or trigonometric operation, okay. So therefore the CPU is called advancement of ALU, okay, so which is present in microcontroller. Now microcontroller can be I mean different type of microcontroller are there. I think you have already studied 8051 microcontroller, okay, that is Intel based. I mean slowly people have evolved, okay. Then microchip, there are different companies, then their company based on the different company they use different architecture, okay. Then Motorola came into the picture, so Motorola built their own microcontroller. Then Texas Instrument built their own microcontroller. Then Microchip built their own microcontroller. Of course the Intel is also there, Intel is also preparing their own microcontroller. So you see that based on the advancement what is happening in the microprocessor, you basically based on the ALU, then slowly different company emerged, and then they manufactured this kind of microcontroller for the easiness of complex work, okay. So here you see in this this is the basic fundamental difference what Mayank was saying. So the CPU is the fundamental part of microcontroller. Along with that, I already told you in the previous class that it is having one PWM unit. Okay, that PWM unit can generate what I can say, pulse width modulation. It can generate variable frequency or variable width, pulse. Like you can say that this is the duty ratio width and the total time is t. Okay, so you can either vary t or you can fix the t and we can vary the width as well. So that part is extensively available in microcontroller, which is not available in case of microprocessor. Okay, so this is one unit which is extensively there in case of microcontroller, along with the timer. Okay, this is another important part. So always you remember, not only CPU, okay, it has PWM unit, it has timer unit. Okay, and timer unit is used for a lot of advanced work. Let us say that I need to do three work. Let us say today I had a meeting from 3 to 5. Okay, sorry, 3 to 4:30 I had a meeting. Now now I am taking a class from 6 to 7. So basically you see I have to complete two tasks, task 1 and task 2. If I do not have any timer support, then what will happen, microcontroller CPU will not understand that which work need to be performed first and which work need to be performed in the next. So therefore timing is very much essential whenever you need to design on state machine or diagram. That state machine depends upon basically timing, okay, and interrupt as well. Not only timing, it also requires interrupt. So this combination of timing and interrupt can successfully execute two operation, okay, as per the requirement or as per the required time. Okay, so it is not that okay I have to complete task 1 and task 2, let us complete that haphazardly. No, it's not like that. Any process if you want to execute, always remember there has to be some sequence. Okay, so first you need to execute this, after that there is a need to execute this. So that's why in the previous class I told you about the importance of machine cycle or machine state machine. Okay, so state machine also says the same thing. You need to execute the one work, but definitely it has to be one it has to follow one sequence. Okay, and how we can apply this sequence with the help of timer as well as interrupt. So these things are only available, interrupt is there in microprocessor but timer is not available. Okay, so in microcontroller this timer part is extensively there. So first part CPU, second part PWM unit, and third part is timer. See, serial communication is also there in microprocessor. Okay, so it is not extensive. Oscillator frequency, yeah, it is sure that oscillator frequency in microprocessor is less. It is 3 kilohertz, but here generally you remember that it is up to 20 megahertz. Okay, so oscillator frequency, which actually generates the internal clock of a microcontroller, the frequency is quite high as compared to the microprocessors. Okay, so my generally 8085 microprocessor clock frequency is 3 kilohertz. Okay, or 3 kilohertz, I can say 6 kilohertz divided by 2, so it is 3 kilohertz. Okay, now it has an ADC converter. Definitely ADC converter you can also connect with microprocessor, there is no problem, but you remember that ADC converter is internally there. Okay, so in microprocessor ADC converter you need to configure externally, but here in microcontroller in build you will have the support of ADC, okay, analog to digital converter. There will be pin 4 pin 5 pin. Okay, that pin will be dedicated for analog to digital converter. If you have worked for any, if you have an experience of working with the microcontroller, maybe at Mega microcontroller, if you use or you have used, then you can remember, you can see that there is something called analog pin or analog input output pin, AI. It's called AI. Okay, so that is integrated internally with the architecture of this kind of microcontroller. Okay, so it is another advantage, but it is not you can see in microprocessor also you can configure. So we cannot say it's a extensive one, but it is integrated here, that is the advantage, but there you need to externally configure. Okay, along with that we have dedicated RAM, which is very good, 368K. Okay, and we have 8K programming memory, we have EPROM. So a lot of memory units are present for storing, for data processing or momentary data storing. Everything facility, all facilities are actually available in microcontroller, which is unfortunately not there in case of microprocessor. Okay, now there is a reset button and there is a power plug. Definitely it will be there, and this is another important thing, that is the IO port. Okay, So in microprocessor, if you have to configure the input output port, you need to use 8255. Okay, 8255. If you have studied microprocessor 8085, you can remember. I think you can remember that there is a 8255 PPI, programmable peripheral interface. So that interface is required externally, okay, to connect any kind of external IO pin. But here the beauty of microcontroller architecture is that we have lot of input output pin which is directly integrated with the CPU, okay, or which is directly called DMA, direct memory access operation. In microprocessor also DMA is there, but we need a different type of arrangement using 8255. So it is quite difficult in microprocessor to connect external device using this 8255 PPI. But here you see the beauty. We have 5 channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each channel is having maybe 5 pin. These pins 5 into 4 is 20 pin. Let us say 20 input output pin. They're directly connected with the interrupt to the CPU. Okay, and there is a W weighted data transfer. Okay, weighted data transfer means basically which data will be coming fast and which data will be coming second. That is a parity based. So that is a controller kind of thing which can control that basically the input output pin. Okay, but you can see they are directly connected with the CPU. Okay, so that is the using this DMA operation or direct memory access operation. That part is extensively available in case of microcontroller, which is not present in microprocessor. Of course you can connect different input output pin using microprocessor. There is a procedure, so you can use 8255 programmable peripheral and DMA operation to do that, but that work is quite difficult. Okay, it is not easy, but where is case of microcontroller, it is quite easy. So this part I had discussed, which I just brush up because some of you have new, you do not attend the previous class. So now I will talk about today's agenda, which is the microprocessor architecture. Okay, and you can recall, I think you have studied, but anyway, because I am taking the course means I need to fundamentally clear what are the things. So the microprocessor architecture I am writing here. So this architecture you can see, I mean they're basically same. Either it is Intel made or Motorola made, that is different. But as far as architecture is concerned, they are same. Okay, micro PROCESSOR, microprocessor architecture. Now, so you see here the basic difference is the data. First of all, a microcontroller data is larger. Okay, it is not 8-bit. Minimum is 16-bit. So as in the microprocessor, what architecture I am going to draw is a 8-bit architecture. Okay, it is not that only 8-bit. It is also there. 16-bit is also there, but people do not use 16-bit microprocessor. Okay, so you need to know 8-bit first, the architecture. So 8-bit means what? The data buffer is 8-bit. Okay, so I am drawing one data buffer line, a big data buffer line, which will be for 8-bit. So this is 8-bit. Okay, so that is a data buffer. Sometimes you can say data buffer or data line, anything. Just a nomenclature. Okay, it do not have any meaning. Basically it is a data 8-bit. Okay, now we definitely need to have an what is called, because first of all there should be a provision to connect the input output device. So how do I connect it? So there is called interrupt controller. Okay, if you understand the architecture, then you can do lot of tasks. Okay, so why it is required? The question is why interrupt controller is required? Because if you want to connect input output device, lot of input output device, this interrupt pin is required. Okay, and not only that, there is a sequencing. Okay, that there is a trap signal is there. If I need to stop the micro control processor, something is that okay, parity based, I need to give a, because timing operation is not there. So how do I control the execution of the program? Let us say I need to execute making a question paper fast. After that I can write a solution. So that sequence, how do I maintain it? So for that I need a software driven interrupt. So that's why in microprocessor, there are different interrupt. I think you remember there are called INTR. Okay, then I have trap signal. I have RST 5.5, then 3.5. So I am not writing all RST. I think you know that. So INTR is the interrupt signal, or then let us say I want to connect with external hardware. So that there has to be some acknowledgement. So this is the input, okay, that what you are taking, but acknowledgement should also be there. That means let us say the INTR is activated. So if it is activated, that external world should know that okay, INTR is activated. So how do I know? How do I make external world that that should understand that okay, INTR is now executed. So please wait for some time. After that, you are ready. You will be going. You will be giving access to you to do your work. So that's why there is a need to acknowledgement. So that is called INTA. Okay, INTA, and it is active low signal. Always you remember that is the problem of microprocessor, that all the signal which I actually going, that is active low, it is not active high. However, the INTR is active high signal. Active high ka matlab kya, what is the meaning of active high? It is basically from going from 0 to 1. It is called active high. Active low means the system will activate when the clock will be going from 1 to 0. Okay, so that is the active low. So that means whatever the peripheral you will going to connect, that should have a bubble here, and then that memory, either it may be memory element, either it's a DMA operation or external output, whatever it is. So it has to be active low. Okay, so since whenever it will be 0, it will be high. Okay, then we can control it. Now that is the thing. So this is the part, and that should be connected. Okay, that should be bidirectional. Now next, so therefore you see here I can do lot of tasks serially, okay, sequentially. I can connect lot of external hardware as well using this interrupt driven signal using 8255. 8255 is another chip, okay, so that architecture I will not draw. 8255 is another chip that will integrated with this interrupt controller, and then we can connect a lot of input output. Okay, so this part is over. Next part is that the communication block. Okay, so it is also present in microprocessor, and you see it is not parallel communication. That is the unfortunate thing. It is serial communication. So in microprocessor, microcontroller nowadays we have parallel communication. Okay, in recent microcontroller architecture, like let us say I am writing here TMS 320F 28379D. Okay, so that architecture is the parallel communication and serial communication, that all these two things you can do. Okay, so serial communication. Now the serial communication, we have serial input data, SID, and we have serial output data, SOD. Okay, so input output, we can say it's a input output basically for communication purpose. Okay, so these two blocks is now done. Okay, now what is left? So you see, I already told you that microprocessor is a basic thing is the ALU. Okay, it can only perform ALU operation. So what we will do here, let me take some space. I need some space here. Okay, so I need to have an ALU, right? So ALU is a, let me draw a red box, which is ALU, arithmetic logical unit, ALU, right? And you know that ALU something, let us say just remember that let us say that I need to add two number. Okay, and after adding two number there is a carry. Okay, there is a carry, means 100, so let us say 100 and 100. If you add them, you see there is a carry here, and which is on overflow. Okay, so in that situation we need to have a carry flag to check the status of addition, whatever arithmetic operation, to check the status. We definitely need some buffer element or memory element. In microprocessor we say it's a flag register. And why it is required? It is basically to check the status of execution, and if there is any overflow, and based on that overflow we can sometimes control the program. Okay, so that is also there. So ALU and flag, and definitely they are connected with the bus. These bus, they are actually connected, right? And that also we can give. It is not unidirectional, it is bidirectional. There is something called temporary register, sorry, temporary register. Any idea of temporary register in microprocessor? Have you heard of this term, temporary register? And that temporary register is connected with this ALU. And we have accumulator. This accumulator is also connected with this, okay, and it is bidirectional. It is also connected with the ALU, okay. Any idea about the temporary register and accumulator? Okay, what is the thing? Do you remember, or you do not remember? You have already studied this thing. Okay, and then output of the ALU, it is going to the data buffer. Flag, sometimes flag status also we need to take to the data buffer. Okay, that also we can connect. So this part is already done. Okay, I haven't got this answer. What is that need of accumulator? What is that temporary register? Flag I have explained. ALU already you know. Can you tell me this accumulator why it is required, and this temporary register why it is required? Anyone?
So accumulator is used to store the all these operations like arithmetic ALU operations. So it's an intermediate storage where when the CPU processes the data, so it just stores the steps like through which it's be going through.
अच्छा अच्छा एक सेकेंड कोई मुझे ये बताएगा सपोज मान लो क्या लिखेंगे सपोज RRC M do you know what is the meaning of that rotate right with carry M stands for what M stands for a fictitious memory in that memory or temporary register and that temporary register is by default they are storing okay some some address let us say 0001 okay and that address the unit which is stored let us say 01H is stored okay so when I just say that that basically means the RRCM means M is corresponds to this address and that address corresponds to this kind of data which is called 01H and based on this 01H that means 000 this 8-bit system and 0001 we need a RRC operation that means rotate right with carry that means that the final it will be 1000 and 0000 okay if carry will be having 1 I am assuming it if it is not then it will be simply 0. Okay, so how this operation is happening here? This fictitious memory is nothing but this temporary register. Okay, that basically we can say that program counter or we can say sometimes. So basically, the task is to point some memory unit. To address. Okay, some address. Basically, pointing some address, and that address will be stored in the stack pointer or the program counter and the address that the data will be stored there okay and from there we can fetch or we can do this kind of operation okay so I hope you understand or is it clear to you what I am trying to mean
Yes, sir.
okay so that is why this is required okay and any idea of accumulator why this accumulator is at all required
So all the load store and arithmetic operations are performed.
okay let us say I am writing an instruction ANIA what is the meaning of that
So this is AND operation.
Definitely it's an AND operation and immediately. Hey, do you remember this thing or you forgot? Okay, anyways, and immediate. Okay, and immediate. Then don't want to tell. A and I A. What is the meaning? And immediate A.
Accumulator.
इसका मतलब what is the meaning?
So with these result, like basically it will do the AND operation uh,
Of
of the accumulator and store the result in the accumulator.
very good. But how it can do? You are saying, let us say in accumulator means some some time ago. Okay, your friend has done some arithmetic operation and the result was, let us say, 0 1. Okay, and you do not have any idea about that. So that means your accumulator should have stored somewhere the result. You understand?
Yes, sir.
And as soon as you are putting this instruction ANI, that means the accumulator should, sorry, I'm I should not say accumulator. The system should understand that it has 0 1 was the previous result, and you want to end with 0 1 the same, and finally you want a result, and that result should be where stored where. So that means there is a need of an storing element, or kind of, you can say, the result storing element, immediate result storing element, that will be that will be the result of this ALU. That means ALU is just a processor. It does the arithmetic operation, and the result will be storing temporarily where? It will be storing here in the accumulator. Okay. So when you give another instruction, that will be erased. Okay, so here fortunately I have done a ANDing operation of A. That means the data what is already present, you want to AND it with the same data. That means that ANDing operation will be here, will be done in the ALU, and the result once again will be stored here in the accumulator. Okay, and you can access from the accumulator and to the data buffer, and you can show it in a display. There is no problem. So fundamentally, you need to have this kind of unit which can save at least one data, which is the current execution result of from the ALU. Either it is a maybe addition, subtraction, multiplication, whatever you just whatever you want to do. That the result, that instant result should be stored somewhere. Okay, that is called the accumulator. Okay, and then sometimes we can track from data from the accumulator. Sometimes we can do a lot of operation with the accumulator help. Okay, but fundamentally you remember accumulator do not do anything. Okay, it is the job of ALU to do that, and accumulator is just kind of a memory element which actually stores the current execution result from the ALU. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Now,
can you explain again the temporary register why we have used here?
yeah, temporary register is for memory pointing. That means sometimes, how I can make you understand, temporary register is kind of, there is no fictitious register, I mean address. Let us say you want to go, how I can say, okay, anyway, so let us say I told you, and you are just don't know anything. Okay, you are new to the Bhubaneswar city. Okay, and you are coming from your hometown, and you do not know about CAD University at all. Okay, you do not know at all. Okay, so when you just railway station you came, you just ask somebody that I want to go to here, that particular KIT University. Okay, now you do not know. Okay, but the person you are asking, he knows. Okay, so that means this person is a fictitious quantity. He is not nowhere related to you. Okay, you are interested to KIT University, that's what you are coming, but you do not actually know. So what you are doing, you are accessing to the fictitious a person, maybe here a person, and he says from his memory location, I mean he says from his background knowledge that okay, you go in that direction and you can reach there. So basically you are not doing anything, you are just accessing somebody's help to reach there. Okay, so similarly here, this temporary register is just is kind of external help which is pointing to the memory unit. Okay, or address unit, and that address is maybe a stack pointer or program counter which stores this data. Okay, but that is the direct relationship. Okay, and that is the temporary register is just helping that. Understand?
Yes, sir. Got it. Thank you.
So now that is the one part of this microprocessor architecture. I have to go to now the memory part. But I already told that memory is just horrible in case of microprocessor because there is not sufficient memory available. You can also appreciate that how the things are bad here. Okay, so let me draw it in blue color. So in microprocessor, generally we have from the data, we have had that we must have this multiplexing of data, because 8-bit data and the memory point is very so multiplexing is required. So let me write here marks. Multiplexing is required, but which is unfortunate, which is this one. Let us say WZ, and this memory is not accessible. Okay, it is there but not used in microprocessor. WZ, and after that, what is that? BC, this register you can access. Okay, and that is called a memory. Don't confuse, register can be acted as memory as well. Okay, so when I saying the register, it is not you can do not think that it's separate. Okay, it's just a memory unit. So BC and then HL, what is that? BC DE, I forgot maybe. Okay, DE. Okay, bus BC, that is accessible. Okay, and HL is accessible, DE is accessible, you can access, and we have stack pointer. Okay, and which is very limited. The position is very, stack pointer is also limited one. Through addressing technique, you can have some location of the memory. Okay, and then the program counter, and program counter is related to this temporary register, so you cannot do anything from the program counter. It is just to track the sequence of the program. Means you have written a code. Okay, you just track this the flow of the program, and which one is instruction will be executed first and which one will be second, and is there any branching operation. Okay, or nesting loop or is there or not, and from the nesting loop you can go to the main programming window. Okay, so that is the purpose of the program counter. So we cannot we cannot believe on, because we cannot do a lot of tasks using the program counter. So basically we have BC and HL, DE, and this stack pointer. So you see how horrible it is. Okay, and from there we have both. We have to do both. You see here, addressing also you have to do ADDRESSING. Addressing also we have to, as well as we can have data as well. Okay, and this data has to be connected again back to the data buffer. Okay, or data bus. Okay, and addressing you can externally connect. Okay, so now this is the memory part. You can see RAM, ROM, programming memory. So you see the microcontroller has a lot of this thing, but here you have only this stuff. Okay, only this, and it is finished. There is no other memory element available. Okay, and forget about timing. Timing is not there. Now the other part which I forgot, which I must say, but clock is present. So I need to give a clock signal. So that is called CLK, clock, and there is a ground. And the read write operation is very bad. You see, you have to do a lot of difficulties. Means programming is difficult. You have to acknowledge whether the microprocessor is ready to do read operation, write operation. So this ready signal is there. Okay, that means when you write a code, you need to always remember that you need to activate ready signal. Means this, if ready is low, that means microprocessor is busy. If ready is not low, that means microprocessor is ready to take data. Okay, so this type of bad things are there in microprocessor architecture. So here we have read write. Okay, sometimes we call RD, and these are all bar, active low signal. Okay, which is bad. Then ALE signal. ALE signal, why it is there? Anyone can say ALE? Why this ALE signal is present? Hmm?
Arithmetic logic operation.
No. Hey, don't say like that. ALE, what is the full form of ALE?
Sir, address enable latch.
एक्टिव एड्रेस एनेबल लैच भी बोलते हैं उसको, एक्टिव एनेबल लैच भी बोलते हैं. ठीक है, एक्टिव एनेबल लैच or sometimes you go address enable latch. What is the meaning of that? What is the purpose? Because microprocessor is 8-bit, okay, and addressing we can do in 16. So we have a lower bit as well as higher bit. So let us say A0 to A7 is the data bit, and A8 to A15 is the higher bit. So here the 16 bit, okay, the lower bit is data bit and higher bit is the addressing bit. So if you have to latch it, latch means because your system is 8-bit system, okay, so you cannot give 16 bit simultaneously. So if you are using it addressing, if you are using for addressing purpose, so you need to latch means you need to deactivate the lower portion and you can use the higher one. Okay, if you are using a data operation, then you have to off the higher one and you can use the lower one. So to basically multiplex, or you can have a latching operation between these two, the set. That's why this active latch enable is, this signal is there. Okay, so when that is high, that means there is a operation. I think you know that 0 means it is a data operation, and if it is 1, it is called a memory operation. I think you know this thing, right?
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
so the ALE, and then status signal is also there. You see, these are all bad. Okay, these are not there in microcontroller, but unfortunately it is there in microprocessor. Because why status signal? Because you see, read write operation. Okay, so let us say I need to write something, so status should say that, okay, that okay, now it is now, the microprocessor is now reading. Okay, now if you want to do writing operation, microprocessor is now doing some writing operation. So status is actually, let us say microprocessor is doing memory operation, so that also the status signal should show. Okay, so these are just wastage. So basically S0 and S1 is there, okay, based on the output 0001. So you can see the status, whether it's a reading operation or writing operation is going on in the particular microprocessor. And all these things is happening because it is only ALU. Okay, if it is CPU is already inbuilt, all the function is actually inbuilt. So that's why we do not need to take care of all these things. But here in microprocessor, you need to take care of all these things. Okay, now we have a hold signal, okay, HOLD, and HLDA. And why anything anyone know HLDA, HOLD, why it is required? HLDA, okay, that is to go to DMA operation, direct memory access. If you want to use the memory access operation, then you need to use this HOLD. And this acknowledgement, active low acknowledgement, there is nothing to do with this, but HOLD is an external input that you have to do. Okay, and you see, simply this is the architecture of and that part is connected with the data buffer. Okay, I should connect here with the data buffer, with the CPU, okay, with the flag, and what else, and here accumulator, and here the temporary register. Okay, so hence this is the complete architecture of microprocessor. Now you can see it is lot of things are here complex, and lot of things are bad as well. So it has a very less computationally inexpensive unit, which is ALU. ALU cannot do a lot of complex tasks. Even memory pointing operation is also difficult. We need to take care of help with the we can take care, help of temporary register, which is not good. Accumulator has to store the previous result, which is also not required. For that it is required, but unfortunately the structure is not good one. Another is memory is a less memory unit is available. Only 8-bit data buffer is present. So here the multiplexing is required from lower data bit point to higher data bit point. Okay, and if you need to read write, then you need to acknowledge it, and then you need to check what operation is going on. This is once again slow operation. Then we need to check the status. After that we can go for next operation. If I say, let us say the reading operation is going on, so after that the status will change. So as long as status will not change, then you cannot do the writing operation. So that is also another problem. So in that way the microprocessor is not fast enough to execute the thing, but it is a very low cost system. If you have a simple, very your operation, what is the requirement, if it is very low, then you can use it. But nowadays nobody use, because microcontroller is available in 400 to 500 nowadays. Okay, 400 to 500 rupees you can get a good microcontroller, so you can use it and you can do your purpose. So nobody actually now interested in microprocessor. Okay, but microprocessor architecture is actually required to understand how far this chip technology or manufacturing technologies go beyond. and you can understand, and then you can appreciate that this development was necessary. Okay, and we are fortunate that things are moving in a good direction, and we have nowadays 400 to 500 rupees microcontroller at Mega 13 or 16 AV or so, Raspberry Pi, so we can do lot of tasks, as well as it can operate as a mini computer. So that's a good advancement. I mean, over the last decade it has happened. Okay, but you need to understand this, the fundamental difference and this architecture. If you have any question related to that, you can ask me. Okay, because I don't want to concentrate on microprocessor anymore. So I hope you understood. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now. After that, I will start a basic thing of FPGA architecture. Any question is there in your mind? You want to ask? Okay, so FPGA architecture. So this FPGA architecture is advancement of both a DSP as well as this microprocessor. Okay, or microcontroller or microprocessor both. And here, the system, the operator uh, is giving you the full flexibility to design your own thing. The structure is like that. We have a lot of input output. So let me draw it. First of all, square type of box I need to draw. Okay, and lot of input output. Sorry for the bad drawing, but try to understand. Okay, so here we will have all the the transistor kind of block, open-ended blocks or reconfigurable blocks, whatever you take. So this is called open transistors are available, and then after that string is over. Okay, maybe you can use 2 strings of transistor. They're all open-ended transistors. Okay, they are not directly connected. If you write a program properly, then it will connect accordingly. Okay, and then let me do it in different color, maybe green. So we have embedded memory. Here is the memory. Okay, so these are all chips. It's a open-ended transistor. That will be better. So open-ended transistor. Okay, open-ended transistors. Okay, now again we have the transistor block. Okay, after that we have sometimes open-ended transistor, or we can say in a theoretical term, we say it's a configurable logic block. Logic block. Okay, basically it is made of transistor. Okay, that's why I am writing a transistor. Configuration logic block. Okay, now it is not only that, we are having here DSP. Okay, DSP block, digital signal processing block. So that you can say basically a CPU. Okay, small CPU. It's not like microcontroller. It's a lower version of the microcontroller. Microcontroller CPU is large. Okay, in a very VLSI technology, it is only one unit. But here internally there are a lot of small chips are there. Okay, so you can consider that to be here. Okay, so this is also simple DSP block. DSP block. Some blocks is mathematical operation, so like that. Okay. Some block is for arithmetic one. And next is another one, we say transistors. Once again, these blocks are there. Transistors. Okay. And then memory unit. I forgot to write here. This is called the embedded memory. Okay. So this is called embedded memory. Embedded memory. Okay. And again, we will have embedded memory after the maybe you can put here embedded memory, right? You can put another string of transistors. Okay. And then after that, these are all data line. Okay. Input output line. So IO lines. So this one is IO line, this one is IO line. Okay, all are IO lines, input output line. So in in DSP, FPGA architecture, we have lot of our input output line, which is good. Okay, there are a lot of input output line available. So accessing data or processing lot of other tasks simultaneously, we can do here. Programming architecture, I will say, but not now, as I am dealing with hardware. So you can see there are a lot of input output elements are present. Okay. And this you can consider to be a chip. Let me take this one. This one is the FPGA chip you can consider. Okay. And externally you have lot of input output IO pins. Okay. So Spartan, let us say Spartan 3. Okay. Or Spartan 6. So these are chips available for this FPGA architecture. So basically, it has open-ended transistor or configurable logic block. Okay, logic block means we need to use a digital circuit, right? Okay, we have this memory element, embedded memory. We say it's an embedded memory. Okay, if it is not embedded memory, I'm writing here. Okay, and then DSP block. Okay, to do some mathematical operation. So always use in your mind this architecture should be there. Okay, because this architecture, if you understand or if you remember, I mean, if it is there in your brain, okay, that okay, now this is the architecture, and how many data pins are available, you can see it is very high. Okay, and directly we can write or do lot of things tasks. If you want to access data, only thing you just have to change the DSP block as well as memory unit and writing this configurable block, and hence it is over. And after that, this simple thing can be acted as what is a circuit. Basically, it is not like your memory, DMA, all things, clock, and nothing is there. Okay, you just have this thing. Of course, in DSP block we have clock. Okay, external clock, that is a different thing. Okay, but you see, as far as chip architecture is concerned, is very simple. Okay, that's why FPGA execution time is very low. Execution time is very low, it is very fast, lightweight and accurate. Okay, I will talk more details about the FPGA architecture and this application. Okay, maybe I should also discuss about TMS series architecture. Okay, TMS 320. So that architecture I will discuss next class. This is the DSP architecture. That architecture you need to understand, because you see here DSP blocks are available. Okay, these DSP blocks are available inside the FPGA. Okay, so you need to understand some architecture of this TMS 320FX. I will discuss tomorrow. But as far as FPGA architecture is concerned, you have to remember that it is open-ended system. Okay, it has open transistor, or we can say it's a combinational, configurable logic block. We have some small DSP block. We have the memory, embedded memory, and then other thing is the input-output pin. Okay, so it is very simple architecture compared to microprocessor and microcontroller. So we can say in a gist or final that the FPGA can be used as a circuit. Okay, this FPGA can be a circuit, okay, itself. And for the case of microprocessor microcontroller, it cannot be a circuit. Okay, your circuit has to be there. There will be a circuit, and we have to use other board. But here FPGA can be itself a circuit. Okay, so that is the beauty, and that's why it is mostly used in the industry, and it is very fast, accurate, reliability is very high compared to the DSP and other. Okay, if you have so this is that up to this today's class. Okay, tomorrow's class I will be talking about the the next class I will be talking about TMS 320F architecture, and maybe Spartan 3 or 6C some architectural difference. Then the first block or module 1 will be completed, and then after that I will be starting the VHDL, okay, the language. So during that time you please install the software what I already told you, the Xilinx software you please download, then you install in your system. So maybe tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I will start the module 2. Okay, 2-3 classes. After that, I will start module 2. If you have any question, you can ask me.
So can we use FPGA in laptop manufacturing?
Yes, yes, it is there. You do not know, but it is there. It is already,
Processor and FPGA both are there.
yes,
Both
yes.
are.
It is there in your laptop. What you are using, FPGA processor is there.
Okay.
See your system. I think all of you are heard about that. Okay, it is i5 processor. Yes, okay, that is okay. But not only the chip, which is the main central processing unit. It is not only that. We have different other peripherals like Bluetooth, like your Bluetooth driver, like your power supply driver, like your fan supply, memory power supply. Okay, you do not consider them. Okay, you are only concentrated on your i5. i5 is okay because it is a central processing unit which will be running the Windows. That's okay, but not only Windows running is important. It is required the power of memory. It is required the power of fan or heat dissipation quality, as well as it is there is a requirement of that memory arrangement as well. Okay, so in that case if you see that RAM and the accessing of RAM with the system memory, okay, which is the cache memory, there this chip is there, okay, already there, already in all the laptops we use. Even the VRAM, there is something called VRAM, that VRAM driver is there internally, okay, power supply. So in that power supply, that 2 to 3 volt from 19-volt power supply, both for giving power supply for the processor as well as that there we use FPGA board. So in your laptop, around 40% port percentage you can see when internally motherboard, 40% you have FPGA already. Okay, you do not know because you haven't, the companies are not publicizing it because that's is the technology. But anyway, the motherboard manufacturing, they do know. Okay, because motherboard we use all the stuff, and in that motherboard we fix your i5 and i7 or nowadays AMD processors. Okay, because the task of this processor is to handle the Windows. Okay, but to successfully operate the chip we need the help of the FPGA from the other peripherals as well. Okay, so if you go for military grade laptop, maybe dedicated for only one application, like your laptop can do a lot of tasks. Like I am teaching now, after that I can simulate, I can do other things. So it's a multi-purpose. Okay, but sometimes we need a high precision dedicated work. So in that case, we do not need this i5 i7. We need FPGA. Okay, I hope you understand what
Yes.
I'm. Okay, if any other doubt you are having in your mind, you can ask me, no problem. If you have anything in your mind. Okay then, so I'm stopping here.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, we